why a children's charity was shut down by the Charity Commission. As the charity is investigated, we talk to the mothers of children with cancer who sounded the alarm.
We were treated appallingly, but it was watching it continue all the time, even though I was shouting from the rooftops.
Meet David from Luton, who's campaigning to stop people who park on pavements.
If I scratched his car, he's not going to like this very much, is he? Why they put the wing mirrors in, and then we can get past without being obstructive? So stupid.
And find out how an ancient recipe is helping to save our East Anglian heritage. Revealing the stories that matter closer to home. That's tonight's Inside Out. Hello. First, we ask what happened to a charity that was set up here in Hunstanton to help very sick children. We first looked at this Norfolk charity 3 years ago. Now it has closed and a major investigation has been launched by the Charity Commission. In this exclusive, the families who raised the alarm tell us what went so wrong.
It's not the financial thing that's a thorn in the side for me, it's how she's treated parents. And obviously we were treated appallingly, but it was watching it continue all the time, even though I was shouting from the rooftops, this is what's happening. It took so long for people to take notice and take it seriously.
3 months ago, this charity, which was set up to help children with a rare form of cancer, was shut down by the Charity Commission. Linda Corp, who had run it, had already walked away, resigning her position as director of FAN after its bank accounts were frozen. Its offices in Norfolk are now empty. The charity was set up to help and support families and their children suffering from neuroblastoma. But many parents felt they didn't get the help they needed and were treated badly. It has taken 3 years for them to be finally listened to. The charity first hit the headlines on a rainy day in June 2012. Lauren Downey had taken her desperately ill daughter Olivia to a clinic in Mexico for treatment, but her condition worsened and she needed to bring her back home.
The state Olivia was in at this point, it was clear she didn't have long, and obviously no one could pinpoint exactly how long, if it was going to be weeks or a month or whatever. But it was really important to get Olivia home, surrounded by not only familiar friends and family, but the nurses that she came to love as well, and people that we loved and trusted.
The charity FAN helped fundraise and held funds for children to pay for their treatment, but Olivia's money was running out. But rather than the charity taking the strain, Lauren found herself having to fundraise at the same time as looking after her dying child. She feels she was put under undue pressure.
All these people phoning saying that they'd been passed my details from FAN or Lindsay Corp. So although I really didn't want to do it, I had to do interview after interview, which took hours at a time, and it was extremely draining. I had to sometimes step away from Olivia to do these interviews, which I certainly didn't want to do, but it was either that or I was basically told I wouldn't get home otherwise with my daughter. So therefore we had to do this hardcore fundraising drive, which added massive trauma to an already terrible situation. We shouldn't have had to be doing that at a time like that. She was on life support, and this is what we had to watch her go through as her parents.
We used to bring Mitchell here most weekends when he used to get a chance from hospital, his little breakaway.
And yet other parents with spare money in their funds had come forward to help Olivia. One mother was Crystal Huth from Essex. Her son Mitchell was at the same Mexican clinic as Olivia.
When Olivia turned up in the clinic, things took a turn for the worst for her. We needed to get Olivia home, and we knew that we had money left in Mitchell's fund, so we contacted Lindsay Culp from Mexico, and she said it wasn't as easy as that.
Why not?
I don't know. I still don't know to this day why it wasn't as easy as that, because that was a whole purpose. That was a big thing for us when we set up the appeal as well for Mitchell, was that we was hoping that if Mitchell no longer needed the fund money, we were going to be able to help another child. I was in that clinic with that little girl and I heard that little girl's screams every day and they had to get her home, but she was stuck there.
Lauren also did not understand why this could not be done.
There were so many people willing to use their children's appeals to help fly Olivia home. The money was there, these children had died, so sadly they weren't going to be using the money. The parents' wishes were to help Olivia, and Lindsay Corp completely declined these wishes.
Don't you feel, as a charity... 3 years ago, Inside Out interviewed Lindsay Corp. The following extracts were not broadcast at the time. Do you make it clear to parents where unspent money will go?
Yes, I believe parents know their options on where they can spend the money, which is primarily given to another child that they may have developed a relationship with in their local hospital, or given over to neuroblastoma research, for example. But the vast majority of families change that appeal into a memorial fund and continue to fundraise in their child's name and memory to be able to support other children of the future.
The charity said it had to abide by strict rules which prevented it using other children's funds to fly Olivia home. But both Crystal and Lauren started to question the running of FAN. After Olivia died, Lauren had asked Lindsay for help paying for a headstone, but was refused. Her appeal had raised over £100,000. Crystal also felt let down over funeral costs. The charity may say, here's a certain amount of money for the funeral, because they would want to hold as much money back to help other children who may need life-saving treatment.
That's correct, yeah. And, that's right. But first and foremost, it should be the child first who's just passed away. And, then it should be our wishes to say that we want to help another family, and how much we would like to give over to a child. It should be our wishes.
Lindsay Corp told us that there was a limit of £2,000 on funeral grants. On your website it says bereavement never ends,
No.
So what point do you then kind of say that you can no longer financially support a family?
Well, bereavement never ends, but you can't financially support a family for the rest of that family's life. We are a charity that deals financially with children who have neuroblastoma and, getting them through that. But support comes in many forms, and there's emotional support and friendship, and we never turn families away. There's many things that we provide.
Exchanges between some parents and Lindsay Corp via Facebook became heated.
She called us morons.
Were you quite horrified at the way she spoke to you and other people?
I was getting kind of used to watching her mouth on there, to be quite honest with you. I think that was just her first nature.
Crystal Huth complained to the Charity Commission in 2012. She wasn't alone. Other parents were complaining too, but they got nowhere. But the turning point came when Crystal and other parents set up a secret Facebook account to get families to talk about their experiences.
Karen, we've had some more members that have joined Families Against FAN group in the last couple of days.
Over 30 parents have now signed up to this group to say they were unhappy with the running of the charity and to question how the money raised was being spent.
If it wasn't for the group, I don't think the Charity Commissions would have taken us seriously.
So you don't think that actually they would have investigated had it not been for this
No, I don't.
support group?
Everybody getting together, I don't believe that they would.
The Charity Commission has now launched an investigation. It told us that initially complaints involved the internal administration of FAN, which it could not get involved in. It has now examined the charity's numerous bank accounts and said, we understand the deep distress that the historic management of the charity by the trustees has caused parents and families. It says the focus of its investigation is concerns about a lack of proper governance structure, the financial management of the charity, and whether or not the trustees complied with their duties and responsibilities. The investigation is continuing. We invited Lindsay Corp to give a further interview for this report, but she declined. Now a mother of 3, Lauren remains determined to see it through to the end in memory of Olivia.
It's a massive insult to me as Olivia's mum and more importantly to my daughter, and I would never ever let that go. No matter how heartbroken I've been, I would always protect my daughter's name. And now thankfully most children's appeals are going to other similar charities, and they know that they can call these charities and get the proper support that they need.
And if there's something you think we should be looking into here on the programme, you can get me on Twitter at David_InsideOut, and my email address is david.whiteley@bbc.co.uk. You're watching Inside Out for the East of England here on BBC One. Coming up, an ancient recipe for saving our region's heritage. Pavements are for pedestrians, right? Well, sometimes people park their cars on them, which could be a real problem for people trying to get by, especially those who have to use a mobility scooter. Now, one man from Luton has become so angry about people parking on the pavements, he's decided to do something about it.
This is Teddington Road in Luton, a busy road at the best of times. With so much traffic, you have to have your wits about you. So on a mobility scooter, it's best to stick to the pavements. And that's what David Boccini tries to do.
Why would he park like that? Excuse me? Why would you park there like that in the first place? You don't park on the pavement. I wasn't abusive to him. I just asked him why he would park on the pavement, and they just drive off and ignore you. And I find that very frustrating, because there is no need for it.
David, who's 73, has had brain hemorrhages and strokes and needs his mobility scooter to get around. He's so fed up with bad parking that he's formed a campaign group called Dad Pop, which stands for Disabled Against Drivers Parking on Pavements. It has well over 100 members.
Excuse me, youngster, may I ask you a question, sir? Yeah. I know I've got the television people with me. What I'm trying to do is find out why people park on the pavement.
Yeah, true. It's awkward for you. I don't know, because I suppose you get a car, a van down here, and you can't get through.
And if you park on the pavement, I can't get through.
No, we do try and leave enough room so you can get through as well.
But it's so inconvenient.
I know what you're saying.
And at least you are making space where others don't.
Try to, but there's no room for a van and a lorry to get down here.
And this is a desperate corner. We have so many accidents here, it's unbelievable.
I quite agree.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay.
But not everyone's as friendly and reasonable.
I've been threatened 3 times with violence, and I've always said, if you're man enough to do it, come and do it, because I'm frightened of nobody. I don't fear anybody or anything in this world, and never have done. And if people are prepared to inconvenience people like me, not me, but people like me who have to sit in a mobility scooter, or mothers that have got children in a pushchair, and the roads and pavements are blocked because idiot drivers do not think. Why do... if I scratched his car, he's not going to like this very much, is he? Why they put the wing mirrors in, and then we can get past without being obstructive? So stupid. At the moment, mobility scooters that go out for an afternoon ride are often inconvenienced in such a way that their own lives are put in danger and they have to use the road, which shouldn't be allowed.
Around 80,000 new mobility scooters are sold every year, and with a growing elderly population, the number of people using the machines is likely to keep on rising. The issue of cars blocking pavements could get a lot worse.
The other day, there was a van parked. I couldn't get through, so I had to go around on the road. And what's a car's going to do? Beep, 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 beep. Or you get hit with a car. Parking is the biggest problem for us.
Have you had any run-ins with drivers? Have you confronted them and asked them why they parked on the pavement?
On the odd occasion, all you get is, well, how much bloody room do you want? That's enough to get my scooter through.
Do you think drivers are sympathetic enough?
No, you get the odd one or two, but majority of them don't give a monkeys. They give you the impression that you shouldn't be in them things. Well, what choice have I got? I've got to be in it because I'm disabled, and I rely on it.
But it's not just people who use mobility scooters who have a problem with obstructions. Lenny Jordan lost his sight when he was 17. To get around, he uses a white stick or a guide dog. Like David, he gets infuriated with cars blocking his way.
Yeah, if there's all of a sudden the cars sort of stacked on the pavement, that makes life very difficult because, like, you know, you're not expecting it. When you don't see, you kind of rely on sort of memory, rely on your senses and so on. And if the environment changes, it's almost like relearning the whole thing again, you know. So when you've got loads of cars on the pavement, it can be quite disorientating. There's been times when I've been heading down to my local station that there's been several cars, but so far on the pavement, there's no chance of me getting past them. So I've actually had to take time walking to the road. And there's been times where cars are sort of whizzed down the road and without I've misjudged it, I've not heard them, and you think it's safe, and I don't know whether they've seen me or not seen me, I'm not sure, but there's been a couple of times when I've been brushed. Well, not quite brushed, but it felt like it, you know, because I suppose when you don't see how close the car is, you feel the wind and you hear a car sort of whizzing by you and you're out in the street. You know, it can be quite nerve-wracking.
What do the people responsible for enforcing traffic laws have to say? Well, the police say it's the council's responsibility to deal with cars parked on pavements, and it would only be illegal if there was a dangerous obstruction on the public highway. While out filming, we came across this police van. It seems the law is a bit of a grey area.
Well, the reason I'm on it is because we get a lot of buses down here. I'm only going to be here for a few minutes just doing some house-to-house regarding vehicle crime, but yeah, at the end of the day, there's a hell of a lot of vehicles parked up, as you appreciate, and if everyone parked absolutely legally, nothing would move, basically.
Do you think it's setting a sort of bad example, the fact that you're doing it?
Okay, well, like I said, if I parked right out here, a bus wouldn't get through, so I'll cause more of an obstruction and more of an inconvenience to the public if I was right out here.
But do you have sympathy for the guys that use the,
of course,
the
yeah,
scooters?
and we would, and if someone did call up, if they're having particular difficulty getting around a vehicle, whether with a buggy, with a push chair or anything like that, then or someone who's obviously physically disabled, then we'll come out and deal with it case by case.
OK, so we've heard what the police have to say. What about the council? Can't their traffic wardens do anything? David Bacchini has come to meet a top council official to press his case.
Isn't there already a legislation in place?
No.
According to the Highway Code, there is.
Well, the Highway Code is advisory.
So how come people get prosecuted through the Highway Code offences?
Oh, that's on the relevant act.
Exactly.
That's on the relevant act.
So 217 of the Highway Code states that you don't park your car in a position where it's liable to cause an obstruction to other people.
That's
Why
right.
can't they be ticketed?
That's right.
Why can't they be ticketed?
We haven't got the powers to do that. We can only ticket where there is traffic enforcement powers, such as single and double yellow lines.
Surely that law should be enforced.
It should be enforced. We'd love to enforce it. We've asked the government for legislation to allow us to do it. What I'd love to do, and every times I've been in central London, you've seen the flatbed truck come along and lifting cars off, because they've been in a residence parking bay, not on the pavement. They've lifted it off and put it on. I thought, we'd love to have that power. We'd love to be able to do it.
Why can't we do something about changing the regulation? I want to be involved in changing the regulation.
We asked the government in our response, we said, we'd like you to bring in legislation to prevent parking on pavements.
Right.
And they said, no, we've got no plans to do that.
I don't blame the council, I blame the driver for doing the illegal thing in the first place. As a lorry driver, I drove a £130,000 lorry. I didn't park it on pavements. I didn't park it by drop-down curbs, and I didn't park it on ramps where people had to get out of their buildings. I was considerate and courteous. That's all it takes. Consideration and courteousness.
And last month, MPs debated a private member's bill to ban pavement parking. Now we're getting plastered, thanks to the rediscovery of an ancient recipe. But this isn't booze. This stuff is responsible for keeping our ancient buildings standing for centuries. Here's Ben Robinson.
In East Anglia, we're lucky to have so many historic buildings to enjoy. Looking at how these ancient timber frames twist with time might make you wonder how on earth they're still standing. Ancient timber frame buildings like those here in Lavenham aren't just beautiful, but they're also very, very strong. You see, what happens is they rely on the joints between the timbers, and as the timbers shrink and dry out, they pull the building together. That movement poses a problem. It means that all the other materials in the building have to be flexible enough to move with the frame. I'm going to show you the ancient material that's helped preserve these houses and find out why it's found favour again with brand new buildings. Our story begins here at Needham in Suffolk in this quarry. Philip Pools comes here to collect chalk, the main ingredient for a lost recipe he's rediscovered. His company makes plaster for repairing old buildings, but he realised people were using the wrong stuff.
We got increasingly tired of having reports that new renders and plasters that had been replaced were failing. Indeed, one week we went to look at one house where a ceiling recently replaced had failed and fallen down in somebody's spare room bed on a bride's wedding dress. Another house where it had fallen down and just missed a baby's cot, and a third house where the ceiling had come down on somebody's dining room table. So we said, enough is enough. These plasters are quite different from what was up there before. Let's look at what was there before and see if we can't reproduce that.
Rediscovering traditional materials was vital. Modern plaster and cement used in the 60s and 70s isn't just making ceilings fall down, it's rotting whole buildings. Restoration specialist Mike Frost has uncovered the damage done to this medieval farmhouse near South Elmham in Norfolk.
You can see the cracking immediately up here. It's obvious, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's just sort of, it's failed to flex with the building.
Completely,
basically.
yeah.
Oh, you get some idea of the thickness of it.
Yeah, it's actually up to 5 inches thick there.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's as hard as iron. Mm-hmm. So, and this is cement-based render?
A cement-based render, yes.
Yeah, and how long's it been there?
Well, probably since the 70s.
Oh, I can see the mesh underneath there.
Yeah. The timber's suffered because it's covered in a hard render, which is actually trapping the moisture, not allowing it to leave, and therefore creating a perfect environment for infestation of fungal spores and beetle, which are destroying the building.
And that hard render's only been on since the 70s?
I would have guessed, yes, yeah. 70s, perhaps late 60s, but no earlier than that. No.
And in that short period of time, it's causing that amount
of decay, yes. Yeah, it's like it's entombed, really. The extent of the damage on this piece of sole plate. This piece of sole plate was actually formerly here, and I was forced to replace it because it's literally beyond repair.
And you said forced to replace it. I mean, your natural inclination is to save everything that can be saved.
Always, always. To preserve the fabric, to preserve the integrity of the building. So, yeah, I replaced as little as I possibly can.
But this had just gone too far. And this is all a result of that trapped in moisture, that trapped in infestation.
Yeah.
And that's why trying to match the original materials is so important. Philip found that instead of including sand in the mix, our ancestors used chalk with the lime and animal hair. His Sudbury-based company now makes thousands of tons of the stuff. It's very different from the brittle, sandy material restorers had been using.
What was up there before is this sort of material, which is eminently flexible. It's like a piece of old carpet. And we analysed it, and we found that it contained not lime and sand, but lime and chalk. And it also contained a great deal of hair. Indeed, that piece of hair is what came out of a piece of plaster exactly that size. And that gives you a material which is hugely flexible. And we have here a piece that was made a few weeks ago, and you can see it's just as flexible as the old original. And indeed, if you wanted to make a really thin coat,
you could make it even more flexible still.
Last year, 300,000 litres of this long-lost recipe was plastered across the country, including ceilings at the Tower of London.
There we go. Oh, this is your test panel.
Mike showed me what the outside of the farmhouse will look like when it's restored with the right stuff. Detail really matters. The plaster even tells a story about the people who lived here.
The plaster goes on in one coat, 1 inch thick. The sparrow peck with a sunray or a shell pattern in the corners. It's quite a beautiful pattern, but very, very simple. Perhaps part of the corporate image of the Adair family, because it's to be found on a number of the houses that belong to their estates. I actually make my own tools and it's a case of trial and error, really, to be honest. I mean, in fact, this sparrow peck I made from a saw blade, which I modified.
And when this pattern was applied, this building was already very ancient. So basically, they were tarting the building up a bit.
Yes, they were giving it a makeover. Yeah.
Lime plasters and renders aren't just for old buildings, they're becoming increasingly popular for new builds as well. This is a passive house and it's designed to be super energy efficient. The haired chalk plaster doesn't just look great, it also helps to reduce CO2. So this house at Wickhambrook in Suffolk will be super eco-friendly.
What's it like to get on then?
Well, it is, as Philip said, like trying to put a cat on the wall sometimes. There's so many fibres in it.
You're doing something here that people have been doing for hundreds of years, rendering a building.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is basically exactly the same material that they've been using for hundreds of years as well.
So why use a material like this that takes its inspiration from the past on a completely modern building?
The principles involved in the passive house are exactly the same as have always been around with a timber frame building. It's flexible, it breathes, and it's durable. It just allows itself to move with the building, basically.
These old recipes certainly have wonderful potential in new build where you require particular characteristics of breathability, sustainability. The materials that they're made from, apart from anything else, are much less CO2 is used in the making of them, which is an advantage. And as they cure, they also absorb CO2 from the atmosphere. So you've got a double benefit.
Who would have thought that plaster has such an interesting story? And once again, we've got so much to learn from the past, the knowledge and skills of our ancestors.
Well, that's it for this week. We're back in 2 weeks' time. Should be enough time for me, hopefully, to have shifted this cold. So I'll see you in a fortnight. Until then, stay warm. Bye-bye. Crisis in our surgeries. We're investigating why we don't have enough GPs and what that means for us as patients. And we reveal why thousands of tons of food never leaves our farmers' fields. We join the volunteers with a new scheme, putting a stop to the waste and feeding the hungry. That's Inside Out, back in 2 weeks' time on the 23rd of February.